Today we are joined by Tom Ray of StormTRacker podcast to discuss the Chicago Wolves playoff matchup with the Grand Rapids Griffins. Welcome to the Griffins Pipeline Podcast.
Welcome back to the Griffins Pipeline Podcast. We are a podcast brought to you by the Hockey Podcast Network, and we are sponsored by DraftKings. I'm one of your hosts, Connor.
And I'm the other host, Kyle. We're a show brought to you by fans, for fans. We are not officially partnered with the Grand Rapids Griffins or Detroit Red Wings. We bring you this show as season ticket members. We're just trying to line up that information and bring it to you because it's all right. Grand Rapids Griffins are in the playoffs. They have advanced, eliminated the Manitoba Moose, and now we have our next opponent, the Chicago Wolves. So we dialed up Tom Ray, and we were glad he was able to talk.
Yeah, Tom Ray is really cool. He's formed this organization, StormTRacker. It's really cool. He talks to Wolves players, covers the Hurricanes mainly. But yeah, it's really cool to get him on. We're really grateful to have him. And without further ado, after our ad, let's talk to Tom Ray.
The Stanley Cup playoffs are here, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, has a new customer offer. Bet player props, bet live, from opening faceoff to the final horn. Every moment matters. New DraftKings customers, bet just $5 and you'll get $100 in bonus bets instantly. And not only the Stanley Cup, but don't forget about the Calder Cup playoffs too. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN so you're ready for the moment. That's code THPN. Turn $5 into $100 in bonus bets instantly. In partnership with DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-MY-RESET. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas, wager tax pass-through may apply in Illinois. 21 and over in most states. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. Limited time offer.
So today on the show, we have a special guest. We have Tom Ray from StormTRacker here to talk about the Chicago Wolves and the Grand Rapids Griffins.
Hey guys, great to be back. It's awesome. And you know, we had talked a little bit about maybe getting together if there was a Wolves Griffins series, and guess what? There is.
Back. Yeah, we appreciate you jumping on. It's good to have you again. We've been looking forward to it since the regular season ended. I know Grand Rapids had such a great season, but the Chicago Wolves really were the most competitive team with Grand Rapids all season. So it's the matchup that the Central Division has been waiting for.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, you know, the Griffins we could hardly see them in the radar. They were so far up there for a period of time. But the Wolves did start to come together as the season went on. They had, and we'll talk a little bit about this, but they had some challenges early on in the season. Of course, those were mirrored with the Hurricanes, who had so many injuries to kick off the year. They were pulling players from the Wolves, and you know, there were injuries with Wolves players as well, and it just kind of started a little bit spotty for them, but they got going, and at the end of the season they were really starting to fire in all cylinders. And you know, it's interesting, the last series for the Wolves, of course, was up against the Texas Stars. And the Stars really owned the Wolves this year. They dominated them. They won 7 of 8 games. So, yeah, going up against the Griffins, who the Wolves did a lot better with, is, well, we'll look forward to that.
Yeah, I did not know that the Texas Stars were so dominant against the Wolves all season. So that's kind of an interesting stat, seeing how the playoff actually went. It was a very tight series. And, yeah, Chicago kind of got away with a relief win at the end there.
Yeah, you know, it was a tough series. The Stars are a great team. There's no question. They've got some real veterans. They got some guys on the squad that have been around for a while. You know, Cole Lynn and, you know, Cam Hughes and these kind of guys that have been there and won before. and they were really starting to roll.
Yeah.
And again, great goaltending. Remy Poirier was amazing in goal, and it was a tough series. And the Wolves had it locked up. Game 4, they basically had the series in their hands, and with 10 seconds left to go, they kind of got caught. And, Texas scored and then won in overtime. But the Wolves really put it to them, of course, in the 5th game, and an outstanding performance by Ryan Suzuki. So it was great.
Yeah, he ended up with a hat trick in that last game, I believe. And
He did.
Yeah, that game 4 was something. Me and Connor were both watching, kind of following along a little bit as we were trying to record our episode. And yeah, it was. We kind of figured 4-2. Chicago's got it locked up. They're going to be walking away with this one, and then we check again. It's in overtime, and we're like, "Whoa, what happened?" So, regardless of the Caden Primo heroics in that matchup, they pushed it to a game 5.
Kyle, Caden Primo, he made 2 saves that were just ridiculous.
Insane.
They were insane. Yeah, and I was kind of thinking that the guys after the game were probably just looking at each other and going, hey, come on. He just did some incredible work in there, and we didn't get it done for him. And maybe that was part of the encouragement as they went into the 5th game, because they came out storming.
Yeah, 2 goals in 30 seconds. I mean, you can't get that.
I know. Talk about storming.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was fun. I could sit and relax a little bit after that, boy, I tell you.
Yeah, so the Grand Rapids Griffins and the Chicago Wolves, they've played each other 10 times this year in the regular season. So the Grand Rapids Griffins and the Chicago Wolves have played each other 10 times this year in the regular season. The Griffins winning with a 6-3-0-1 record, 4 of the games going into overtime. So giving us the most.
It was a closer series. Yeah.
Yeah, in Chicago, they've found a way to beat Grand Rapids at home and in their own building, which is something that most teams weren't able to do. Grand Rapids seemed to go to everyone's arena and just clap them, and Chicago put up a fight every time we went to Allstate Arena. So something that Chicago's not a team that's just going to fall over. We can kind of get in some of the head-to-head matchups for the regular season, what both teams look like. And
the Wolves season was kind of an interesting one because they had some call-ups to the Hurricanes. They had some injuries early on. Their defense core was kind of decimated, and Carolina jumped in and said, "We got to get some help for these guys." And they brought in some reinforcements, and they brought in Juuso Valimaki from Utah. And they signed Cal Foote. So they brought a couple of veterans. These are former first rounders. These are guys that have, they can play for you. Foote's huge. He's 6'4" and 220, as you know. So he's a big guy. And Valimaki is a very, very slick player. He had 23 points in 27 games. He was amazing during the regular season, really, and a great guy. So those guys came in and kind of solidified the blue. Caden Primo on goal. What can I say about Caden? He's just a beast in the American League, and he has been all along. So he did the same thing. He had a great season this year. So goaltending was in good shape. And then, as you look up at the forward side, the big line, of course, terrorized the AHL for a period of time with Suzuki, Robida, and, of course, Bradley Nadeau. And interesting thing on Robida, he had 16 goals in 19 games. At one point, Justin Robida. So that line was just unconscious. Wow. They were ridiculous, right? And they terrorized everybody. So, they were on fire. At the end of the season, they had some changes. Nadeau went up to the Canes for a while. They had Robida had some injury problems, but they're back together now, and they're starting to get their mojo. So they were a great part of the success. Another guy that so something that changed dramatically, again, looking at the reinforcement side, was that Noah Philp, who had been picked up on waivers by the Canes from the Edmonton Oilers, was dispatched to the Wolves. And Philp, really good centerman. He's a big right shot center guy. He started to roll on a line with Felix Unger-Sorum, who was a real story this year, of course.
Yeah, he looked real good in the Texas games.
Oh man, Unger-Sorum. unbelievable. He was the top scorer of the team this year. He changed, his performance was like 180 degrees from last year. It's incredible. And we can talk about that. But he and Victor Neuchav, who the Canes acquired in a deal for Gavin Bayreuther with Buffalo, came in, and he started to find his mojo. So that line formed a new second line for the Wolves, and things really started to go. And, you know, of course, they have the mirror line of the Stahl line. It's kind of fun. They've got the Skylar Brindamore, Josiah Slavin, okay, and they had Noel Gunler on that line for quite a while. And those guys mirror, of course, Stahl, Martin, and Nikolai Ehlers. So they're kind of fun. Yeah, and you know, it again, the Wolves are a lot like the Canes. They play by committee. You know, they're just a bunch of hardworking guys. They mirror the Canes and how they play. They're hard on the forecheck. They're in there making things happen. And I think you look at the Wolves, and they're extremely well coached by Spiros Anastas. And the great news at the end of the year, if you saw it, was Spiros was given the permanency as the head coach of the Wolves. He had been an interim, so he got the head coaching reins going into the playoffs, and he's got them playing the same way as the Canes. And so far as we look in the playoffs for the Hurricanes, I guess it worked.
Yeah, and I think that's huge for an AHL as a development team. Your AHL team should be able to be fluent with your NHL team and how they play, being able to shift. You know, if you're a third line guy, you should be able to shift up to the third line of your NHL team. And that should just be said about mirroring the third lines. Like it works out that way.
Well, and there's a funny story about this. Sorry, Kyle, but looking at the end of the season, the last 5 games, so those games for the Canes were predominantly Chicago Wolves, like I think 8 or 9, like it was a big number, right? Called up so the Canes could rest players, you know, on the roster. Well, guess what? The Wolves did the same thing and dipped into the Greensboro Gargoyles, and guess what they did? They won 4 or 5. So I think you're right on, as that these players know the system, you know, they're good to go.
Yeah. Yeah, it brings out the depth. It gets everyone in a little different competitive level and kind of shifts up the arraignments. And then when they drop back down, they're all back and everyone's ready to get in groove for the playoffs. So it's a smart decision by the Canes organization to do that.
Yeah, and you know, if you're going to try to go deep, whether it's the AHL or the NHL, you've got to have depth, and that's a key part of it, of course. And you know these teams, they're getting younger players that can come in and make a difference. I'll give you an example on the Wolves. Ivan Ryabkin started the season with the Wolves. Ivan was a first-round pick, a second-round pick this year for the Canes. And Ryabkin is a guy that you know, very highly regarded. They signed him immediately as a 19-year-old, and he came over and started playing for the Wolves. Well, I think the big interest there was just to get him, you know, acclimated to playing professional hockey, because it was a tough road for him. In fact, he was playing mostly fourth line minutes at one point, and then they sent him to the Quebec Major Junior League, Charlottetown, and he played 20 games up there, and he had like 42 points. So he terrorized them.
Gotcha.
So he came back after their season ended. He came back, and he's actually been patrolling the wing with Skylar Brindamore and Josiah Slavin, which is interesting because it kind of mirrors the idea that the Canes have with Nikolai Ehlers. Ryabkin is a skilled player. He's fast. He can really get in on the puck and so on. And I think he adds a bit of an offensive touch to that line. So it's great to see him back.
Gotcha.
It's kind of fun. You know, it's he's looking a little bit different. You know, he's feeling more, obviously he's feeling much better after, you know, having so much success. So, you know, he's another one of these young guys, and you've got bunches of them on the Griffins as well. So you see these young players coming in, and they're excited.
Yeah, and that is always kind of fun to see, like, who cracks the lineup in the playoffs here as it goes on, and you need to call upon that depth, and guys get injured. Like, who are these top, you know, young kids? Maybe they're not top prospects, but who are some of these kids that get a chance to play in these big games, and who shines? So It's always fun. That's why I love the Calder Cup playoffs. You get see the guys you normally would never see. So
Well, sometimes too, they'll bring in, college stars. There were a couple in the Texas series. There were a couple of college guys that had just graduated and they were pretty highly regarded, and they look pretty good. And you're going to see that. I mean, there's a bunch of them that have been signed, of course, and are playing in the AHL. In fact, the Hurricanes, one of their top prospects, Charlie Serrato, who is at Penn State with Gavin McKenna.
Nice.
He's on an ATO with Chicago right now. So he's been injured. He played one game. He's been kind of in and out of the lineup due to injury, but I think he's possibly going to come back in. And he's one of these guys that you didn't see him all year. So the Griffins have no, scouting report on Charlie Serrato, but he's a heck of a player.
Who is this guy? Yeah. So the Griffins have had a couple guys from college. They've had like Keenan Draper and from Michigan. He's actually Chris Draper's son, so that's really cool.
I thought he might be. Yes.
Yeah.
And then you had
Dylan James
from North Dakota. So
yeah, I saw Dylan James was with you guys. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But yeah, so it's exciting to get a look at some of these, an early look at some of these younger guys, and hopefully, see what they're going to be when the next season comes around. But yeah, so like regular season, I feel like it's always right at the end of the regular season, you get a big influx to see what you're going to line up with, see who's going to crack that roster. And then you kind of get into the actual action, and like the guys who've been there all season, they're going to get the initial go. Like, who are a couple of those like main tier roster? Obviously there's Suzuki and Nadeau, and I think
Brindamore.
Yeah, Slavin and Brindamore. They're
Brindamore and Slavin do the heavy lifting defensively, and Brendan takes a lot of the tough face-offs, as you know. So on the defensive side of the game, or PK or whatever, those are guys that are just they're rock solid, right? Yeah. But I was mentioning Noah Philp, and he and Unger Sorum, they really created a kind of a different opportunity for the Wolves. It's kind of like the Hurricanes. You look at the Hurricanes, and their top line was really shut down, has been really shut down in the playoffs, right? So, now you've got a line of Stankoven, Hull, and Blake that has just been incredible. And I see a very similar situation with Noah Philp's line, where, Suzuki and Robidas and Bradley Nadeau are getting tough matchups. And it's heavy lifting for those guys, right? And one thing that I've seen in the playoffs as well has been it's much tougher on the power play. Teams are playing harder. They're working harder on the PK and so on. And your goaltenders seem to be playing a little bit better, and they're your best penalty killer. So, you've got to have some secondary scoring. And the other thing the Wolves have, which is interesting, and I had a conversation with Spiros and Astis about this, and I was talking about unsung heroes. They have, when you look at, where they were before Philp and Neuchev came in, they had second line was pretty well made up of Nikita Pavlichev and also Evan Vierling. Okay, so those two guys, Pavlichev's been around the AHL for a while. Vierling kind of in and out of the ECHL and AHL, but a heck of a player in junior. Evan Vierling had a great junior career. Actually played for Barrie, where I'm from, in just outside of Toronto. So he had a great career. So those guys, they've been moved to the fourth line. So you start to think about, and Pavlichev's a big guy. He's huge, and he plays a heavy game. So now you've got players that were certainly higher in the lineup that have been moved down, which has really added a lot to the Wolves. I mean, both of those guys, I think Vierling had like 16 goals or whatever, and so did Nikita Pavlichev. So, I mean, those guys are adding offense. They're solid defensively. And, when you can roll four lines like the Wolves, that's a lot to handle.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so now that everything's kind of concluded, we'll go over the regular season, just kind of stats real quick. I know for Grand Rapids and Chicago, both pretty good teams in goals for. Chicago had 225 throughout the season. They were in 15th place, so right in the middle. And Grand Rapids was 255 in second place, which they've scored goals so much this year. It's insane. That probably one of the best years they've had. I couldn't tell you exactly, but impressive on goal scoring. And goals against, Chicago's 11th in the league for 218 goals against. And Griffins are first in the league with 159 goals against. So
Yeah, so both teams are basically in the top 15 in offense and defense. So it's a
Well, I
really
think, yeah, just to mention on the Wolves, guys, the big gunners on the Wolves, as you know, are Bradley Nadeau and Justin Robidas, and they had shorter seasons. Okay, so that affected the overall offense of the Wolves. And again, they were going through some different changes as well, and their game is not as much kind of having like 35, 40, 50 goal scorers. They tend to be more, in that 15, 20, 25, range. And then you've got a guy like Nadeau who he scored 30 goals last year. So he's definitely a trigger man. But I mean, you look at the Griffins, you're loaded. Your top line, from what I could see, I mean, you've got Leonard and Shine and Dries together. Those guys are deadly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Extremely deadly. Leonard,
they're a handful.
Leonard
He put Gustafson on the point and look out. Oh my
yeah. He looked good against the Manitoba team, that's for sure. He definitely showed why he could have been an NHL or any time this season, but yeah.
Yeah, I think the Griffins recipe is they got like a really good veteran core, and they also have like the high end talent also. So it's like both ends of both spectrums are just really elite, and it really shows on the ice. You can see like you have like 4 first round picks, and then you have all these new prospects coming in, and then you got the veteran core like Dominic Shine, Sheldon Dries, John Leonard. Then you get dudes who came down from Detroit Red Wings that were expected to play in the Detroit. Eric Gustafson, and Justin Hall, and all those dudes, obviously.
Hall's gone, thankfully. Thankfully, he was moved out in a deal, so that's good news.
Yeah.
And
there's something interesting though that I noticed with the Griffins guys is the move to bring over these European free agents. Like you got a bunch of them, right? So you got Trail Marks, you got Richlowski, you got all these guys, and you got
Saba.
You could almost consider
Saba. Yeah, I mean your goalie. I mean he's another one out of Czechia. He tore up Czechia last year, and he comes up.
You could almost consider Stakoviak in that, the dude we brought over from the Syracuse Crunch in a late trade. He was playing in the DEL for a couple years. He ended up being an Olympian for Germany this year, and we brought him over at the deadline, and what an impact he has made. Stakoviak for the Griffins.
Stakoviak, I was going to mention Stakoviak as well. Yeah, I mean, I saw some of his work and some of the highlight stuff as well that I've been watching. But these guys are, I mean, they're not youngsters, right? They played some hockey. I mean, Trail Marks is 29, so he's not a young guy. So you've got some veterans on there that you brought in from around the globe, so to speak. And then you had some of the other guys that you have that have been around, like, I mean, Dries and Shine and Leonard, for goodness sakes, right? So you're loaded. There's no question. And you got, Sebastian Kosus tonight night playing, and Trey Augustine. Who knows where he is? I mean, you guys are so deep in goal.
Still got questions on where he ends up.
It's foolish.
Yeah, we're almost thinking like send him to the Walleye so he can like get actual experience, because we're not even playing Kosa right now.
Yeah,
we're running the hot hand.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting thing with your veteran side, like talking about Gustafson. Of course, he's played a lot in the NHL and so on. And he had a 60-point year, I think, 1 year. So he's a guy that can really deliver. But I felt something similar with Valimaki, because, I mean, Gustafson's almost a point-a-game guy, and Valimaki is too. And they're both of the same kind of ilk, that they love to carry the puck. They love to make things happen. And they've had success in the NHL. And so, if you start to look at the Griffins and go, oh man, I don't know about this, but then you start to peel the onion back and say, wait a minute, maybe this isn't quite as, such a difference in teams as you think. So there's a lot of experience on both clubs. You've got some of the best talent, of course. You guys have 3 or 4 first-round picks that are floating in there. You've got some really good ones. Francis Nygaard, I've been really impressed with him. You've got, oh my goodness, Axel, Sandine Pellica, for goodness sakes, to get him back from Detroit was huge for you guys. I mean, he's a heck of a defenseman in the NHL.
Yeah, he has a really good offensive potential. Like, he could be really good. He could be like, I see like Cal McCarr flashes with like the offensive ability. He's just got to tune up his defense a little bit.
Which he really did against the Moose too. Honestly, he really found ways to prove why he can still defend well in this league, no problem. Like he showed it. So I was impressed with that, and he delivered on the offensive side still.
Well, he scored a goal where he went through the whole team. So I think that he looked pretty good. He is a great defenseman. But again, the Wolves are deep on the blue. That's probably that could be the deepest part of their game, because they did shore up, and they've got most of their guys back. So Charles Alexis Legault, who is an excellent defenseman, rock solid defensive guy, he's back and he's healthy. So he's a big add for the Wolves right now. And he wasn't in for most of the games, I think, during the season because of he was out for quite an extended period, as you know. So he's a guy that's going to help. And you've got Dom Fensori. I mean, he's what Dom can do. He can fly. You brought in the veterans, Valimaki and Foote. And then you've got Yoel Nystrom, I wanted to mention. He played 36 games with the Canes and did not look out of place. In fact, secured a contract, a 2-year deal. Next year's a 2-way and the year after is a 1-way. So he's a guy that impressed everybody so much that, they thought they'd lock him up, right?
Yeah.
And then one other guy I'll mention, he won the Breslin Unsung Hero Award, and that's Ronan Seeley. Okay, and he's one of those guys that he's just there every night. In fact, you often don't see him because he's just going about his business. And so you look at that decor, and I know the Griffins have a tremendous decor. I've looked at it, and they're very impressive. I think the Wolves have one too.
Yeah. I agree with that 100%. Roman Seeley especially has been someone that over the last 2 years has really taken a step up and been an impressive defender along the blue line and both sides of the puck too. He's not a small guy. He can make those hits, and he's not afraid to step up when the offense needs it to. So I've seen that big time from Roman Seeley. And I think me and Connor actually, when we took a bus trip with the rest of the Griffins season ticket members down to Allstate Arena.
Yeah, we actually got to see it.
Just kind of a fun thing the season ticket member club does here, and we go down to Allstate Arena, and Roman Seeley looks so good in that game. I mean, he's one of those guys where it's like, well, if he goes on the market, I wouldn't mind taking a shot at him.
What's interesting about Ronan, I saw him in some of the prospect showcases a couple of years ago and so on, and development camp and so on. I got to tell you, he is smooth as silk. Like, he can really skate. And I watched him, and I just sat there and I thought, holy jeepers, this guy. And he was a 7th-round draft pick, so he was way down in the pecking order. And he actually had a chance to play a game for the Canes this year, which was fun. But he is a guy that he's no fuss and no muss. He doesn't make mistakes out there. He's just getting it done. And he does have an offensive side. When he was in junior, he was very successful offensively. But as he's kind of recreated himself in the pros, he's been more kind of attuned to the defensive side. Now, this year, he actually scored 11 goals. So he had a bit of a tear where he got 6 goals in 11 or 12 games. So it's kind of,
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
That's wonderful. So, he's a guy that I really like. And again, I think you've hit something that is always the case in these playoff series, where you have some folks that are just kind of under the radar who step up. 3rd, 4th line guys, maybe some of the defenders, the other guys are kind of, taking each other out and, neutralizing each other. And so it's the folks further down the lineup. And this is historic in the NHL, and of course the same thing in the AHL. And I think, we're seeing some of that. And some of these folks are really stepping up and looking good. And it's fun.
Very fun. Yeah, so the Wolves and the Griffins are going to be playing a best 3 of 5. We'll kind
Okay.
of go over that schedule real quick. They play on Thursday, May 14th. They start out at the Van Andel Arena. It'll be a 7 p.m. game. And then they have Saturday, May 16th at the Van Andel Arena. First 2 games home for the Griffins. And then they take the trip to Chicago to Allstate Arena. They have a Tuesday, May 19th game and a Thursday, May 21st game. That'd be 8 p.m. for both of those games at Allstate Arena. And that's the thing, is the home field advantage almost.
So the first two are with the Griffins home arena, and then the next 3 with the Wolves in Allstate.
The next 2. So
and then back to okay.
So it goes 2 in Grand Rapids, 2 in Chicago, and then 1 in.
Okay. I thought that was it. Okay.
Yep. The last.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, that's. Yeah, but you know what? Home ice advantage. It doesn't seem to be as critical anymore, right? So, the Wolves had good success in Texas when they went down to Austin. They won one of the games in Austin, of course, and that set them up because they had the next 3 at home.
Yeah, I will say the home field advantage seems to matter with. I think it's more of like the day, when you can get your fans to the arena, because sometimes Calder Cup playoffs, especially like the AHL playoffs, they're just not necessarily planned for by these venues. Sometimes you can really get the shaft end of the stick by just your arena schedule, because they were scheduling concerts, other events, which I think kind of happened to Chicago in this event, where the 2 games for Chicago are Tuesday and Thursday. So there's no Friday where you can get all the Chicago fans down there, nor Saturday. So I do feel like in this certain situation, home advantage does come into play.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, for sure, the crowds are better on the weekend. There's no question. And it's having a good sized crowd in Allstate, as you know, is huge. So having a good sized crowd in there is really something that can change the rules for you. I mean, the parent Hurricanes, of course, the Caniacs are incredible, and they're usually out tailgating well before the game. So I'm astounded they can still yell at the end of the game.
Oh, really? So I have a question for you.
Sure.
So how is it having 2 teams, like both the AHL and the NHL team? It's got to be crazy trying to balance those players back and forth.
Both being in the playoffs deep compete. At this point.
Yeah, it's not like the beginning of the playoffs, but at this point, it's like you're getting pretty second round-ish,
Stay healthy.
Well, that's a great point, guys. Is that normally they'll have the Black Aces, right? So they'll call up some players and have them kind of with you. In fact, in the Texas series, Charles Alexis Legault was unavailable for a couple of games because he was up with the Hurricanes. They had the injury to Alexander Nikishin. Mike Riley stepped in, of course, but they wanted to have some cover, and so Legault went up, and so that affected the Wolves. So again, injuries, they're going to call players up, and you kind of hope it doesn't happen much. Now, here's a good thing, is that the Canes aren't playing for another week or 10 days.
Oh, so they can send some guys down.
I don't think there's anyone they can really send down. I don't think there's anyone that would be. It's not like some of the teams, they can send their players that have been there most of the year, like Sandy Pelican. But there's really nobody on the Canes that I think would fit the bill, unless I don't think they can send Nikishin. Yeah. So
both rosters are pretty solidified, is what you're saying, and if there is to be some movements, it's not going to affect the system.
Yeah. No, and the Wolves have depth. I mean, we're not even talking about the tough guys. Like one of the things that I was talking about in the Texas series when we talked with some folks on that one, they've got a couple of tough guys that are sitting on the sidelines, right? Yannick Turcotte and Giovanni Smith. Okay, so and Giovanni well.
He's my favorite, man.
And that kind of Same for Grand Rapids. I know Austin Watson has been sitting on the bench,
Yeah.
and I know we got Carson Back and Alex Kannok-Leipert that have also had sit games. So I can
Correct.
expect players to step back on the ice against each other.
Yeah, and it's funny because when I was talking about the Hurricanes on a recent podcast, I coined the phrase "Bash Brothers" because I was talking about William Carrier and Nicolas Delorier, who the Canes got from Philadelphia.
Gotcha.
So, two guys that really like to lay the body on and get in there and muck it up. And it's similar with these two guys on the Wolves. In fact, Andrew Rinaldi and I were laughing and saying it's kind of the mini Bash Brothers down here. But they can get in and they can stir it up, right? So if the series gets tough, and you play a lot of games in a short period of time, you know what that's like. The guys start to, it gets a little testy. So if needed, they can bring in some guys with a little bit of muscle to shake things up, and same thing on the Griffin side as well.
So I got another question. So if the Chicago Wolves were able to beat the Grand Rapids Griffins, who do you think the better matchup for the Chicago Wolves would be, the Colorado Eagles or the Coachella Valley Firebirds?
So, I don't know. To me, again, it doesn't really matter. I mean, the playoffs are the playoffs. It doesn't really matter who you're going to play. You have to get through whoever it is. And every game you take it one at a time. So, I don't know those teams as well, so I can't specifically talk about them. But I can, my feeling generally is, whoever it is, bring them on, right?
Bring them on.
And the playoff hockey season is different, as you both know. I mean, you can end up way down, in terms of your position in the standings, and things start to really come together for you at the right time, and you become a tough out. And it might look on paper that, hey, those are the guys I should be after, right? And it turns out that
in the Eastern Conference, you got the Springfield Thunderbirds, who actually knocked out the Province Bruins. They kind of went on a run there, and they eliminated the Bruins, the Checkers.
Looking like a threat right now.
Looking like a real threat, yeah.
Well, momentum is the whole thing, right? You start to feel good about yourselves, and these are a lot of young players in many cases, and they start to really get it going, and all of a sudden, it's like a ball going down a hill. How do you stop it? Like, it's just roaring down there, and it's crazy. So I think again, I look at it this way. First up is the Griffins, and then we'll figure out where we go from there.
Exactly.
Solid points there.
Face the man in front of you first.
Yep.
The challenge.
Yeah, for sure. You should not be thinking about too far out. And I'm the same way with the Hurricanes. I mean, they've got they could be playing Buffalo or Montreal. And folks have asked me, who would you rather see the Canes play? And one day it's Buffalo and the other day it's Montreal. It just depends, right? They're both great teams. And they've been a handful when the Canes have played them. So I think we'll just hope that they have a long, hard series, and the Canes almost have enough time to go down to Cabo and have a couple of pina colados and then come back.
Yeah, I guess
go on a cruise real quick.
Well, they do that in the All-Star break. They all go down. A bunch of them go down to someplace in the Caribbean and hang out, and then they come back and try to get back into hockey. So it's a bit of a challenge. So I always make fun whenever there's a long break that maybe they'll want to head back to that spot in the Caribbean.
There you go. Now, if you asked me the Stanley Cup, I would probably have to put my money on Carolina and Colorado right now to make it. I mean, both teams looking this good this late. It's going to be good to see those two teams. I'd love to see those two teams, the top teams on both sides, play each other.
Well, when you look at the Hurricanes, I mean, I talk about them all the time, so I'm a little bit biased, but when you look at the Hurricanes and you say something like that, Kyle, what do you see in the Canes?
They've kind of swiftly knocked out the teams they've played against so far. There really hasn't, I don't think there's been like that much of they make it look easy, so to speak, is what I'm saying. And I don't think they played anyone like Colorado yet, but I do believe that I think there's a lot more speed and a little just. They have a way to find pucks in the net. Their scoring ability, I think it's just a little bit higher up there than the rest of the league. And yeah, the goalies are getting deserved credit right now as well. Anderson, I believe he just passed. I couldn't tell you who he just passed, but he is the top winning goalie for the Carolina Hurricanes now, I believe. So
yeah. I
so
think
yeah,
that's true.
all things are kind of striking right now for
And then you
Carolina.
got Sebastian Aho, obviously, who's been there forever, and I'm a big Sebastian Aho guy. Svechnikov, Andrei Svechnikov. Love
Well,
those
I mean,
guys.
if you think about what's happened with the Canes and that they've done as well as they have, and the top line has not been getting it done. You kind of sit back and somebody said today, boy, if those guys get going, look out. This is frightening.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, they're a deep team. And like I mentioned before, they play by committee. And I think, and again, that's the same with the Wolves. And I think it's hard work and it's not for everybody. A lot of players would not want to play in that system. But, you take a guy like Taylor Hall, and this is a kind of an interesting story. He just fits that style of play, and his career has been completely revitalized.
Yeah. Nope. No,
Amazing.
Being able to just have fresh legs on the ice at all times with 4 lines rotating like that, it makes the game so smooth for every player.
Yeah, and the other thing too, and it's the same in with the AHL as well. You've got to have those savvy veterans. Okay, you've got to have those Jordan Stalls and Jordan Martinukes and the Jacob Slavens and whatever the case is. You got to have those guys, and they've got to be there. They've got to be rock solid.
Rod Brindamore.
Yeah, right. No, but it's interesting. One of the other things I looked at for this series, which is kind of an interesting story and byline, guys. I mean, you've got your coach has been incredible, right? So he's won awards. He was incredible in the ECHL. He's done extremely well in the AHL.
Yeah.
And he's been, he's a guy that really knows how to get it done, and he's got lots of experience, and he's been through this before. Yep. Okay, now Spiros Anastas, not so much, right? So he's got
first time as a head coach now in the playoffs.
Yeah, but he, if you look at his resume, it's kind of an interesting one. He's coached around the world. So he's coached teams in several countries you probably never dreamt they played hockey in. And he's and he did some things in Canada and in Western Canada for junior hockey and so on, but he doesn't have a deep resume like your guy does. And I think that's something that you got to think about too, right? If you've been there, you've had the experience, you've won in the playoffs, and he's won championships in the ECHL and so on. So I think that's going to be an interesting. It's going to be an interesting byline. I want to watch that pretty closely. And Watson, to me, he's impressive.
Yeah, very impressive.
Yeah,
I don't think he's ever missed the playoffs in his entire career coaching.
No, and he's won awards. He was coach of the year in the ECHL and so on. And he's I mean, I think he was with Toledo for 14 years or something. I don't know.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
so he was like the quickest coach to ever be given all-star honors in the
it's insane, right? So, he's great. He is a great coach, though. Yeah, he is a great coach, but again, Spiros has the team with him. They love him. I mean, I can say that sincerely. They really love him, and he's a guy that they'll go through a wall for, right? And they're going to go out there and they're going to work as hard as they can, and hey, that's all you can ask.
Yeah, I agree. And it's a great time to, what is this standard going to be now that he's officially the head coach? This is a great time to get in the heads of these players as a positive role model coach, all these good things, and create positive things for the future for when they come back next year. And when you got this cycle all over again, make them want to be in Chicago, make it so they get sent down. They didn't make Carolina. Hey, at least we get a good coach down here.
Yeah, and he's got great help, Dan Price and the rest of the crew. They're strong, but just like the Griffins, there'll be some changes next year.
Mm-hmm.
The Canes have a lot of players that are over in Europe, that are kind of getting to the age where they should start to make their way to North America. And we're kind of interested to see which ones do. And the Canes have been they've been doing that, and they've actually been bringing some younger Russians in. Last year they brought in Gleb Trukozov and Ruslan Kazayev, a goaltender who's in with the Gargoyles right now. They brought those guys over, and this year, of course, they've got Ryabkin. So they don't have any reluctance to bring players from Europe, and I think there are probably 3 or 4 that could be earmarked to have.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff for the future, right?
Yeah, we'll cover that in the summer.
Of course.
So is there anything else you want to talk about, man?
No, I mean, I think this is going to be a great series, guys. I think it's going to be hard fought. For sure, on paper, the Griffins are a better team. You know, if you want to look at any of the stats, there's no question the Griffins are the better team. But you know, it's all about momentum and feeling good about yourself. And I know the Wolves are feeling very, very good about themselves right now, and they're firing on all cylinders. They've got their team back. The walking wounded are healthy again, so it's going to be a full squad. And you know, you could see a guy like Charlie Serrato and some other people come in and kind of surprise you. So I think it's going to be great. I can't.
Yeah, we're super excited, and
the rivalry too.
Rebuild this rivalry a little bit. I mean, it's a great one in the AHL, and being that this one's for the division finals, so being a division final matchup here with number 1 and number 2, this one should make it interesting for sure.
Yeah, and you know what? This is going to be a test for the Griffins too.
Yep.
They're going to have their hands full, and it could be one of the toughest series for them. So I think, you know, when the Wolves are playing their game, they're tough to beat.
Yep.
Absolutely. So, Tom, where can we find your content and your show, and tell us a little about your show real quick?
Sure. So we have StormTRacker, which is available on YouTube at StormTRacker23. You can find us, and we have a great team of people. You might have seen us. We have Nick Bass, who handles the prospect side worldwide. We have Andrew Rinaldi, who handles the Wolves for us, and I spend a lot of time with Andrew, of course. And we have our 2 hockey savants, Aaron Manning and Katie Bartlett, who talk about the Hurricanes. And interestingly enough, they both have second favorite teams. In the case of Katie, it's Colorado. So if the Canes play Colorado, it's going to be fun. And in the case of Aaron, it's actually the Montreal Canadiens. So if we play the Habs in the final, it's going to be a lot of fun for us. So
fun,
yeah, we have a great team. We have a lot of fun. We're available on any audio podcast site as well. So if you want to listen to the audio version, that's great. The other thing I'll mention, we do have a good, very exciting podcast coming up this week, and a special guest will be Ryan Suzuki. So we're going to have Ryan on after his hat trick, and last week we had Skylar Brindamore. So we're having some fun getting a view from the players. So we'll hear from Ryan as to what he thinks this series is going to be like, and you know, he might get some interesting pointers if you're listening, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome, Tom. You know, this is why we want to do this with you, to get the other side's perspective, to get, you know, it's easy to just talk Griffins all the time, especially when you're the number 1 team coming into all this now that Providence is out. And sometimes you just gotta reach across and check out, you know your enemy. You gotta make sure you know what you're up against. And this is what it's all about. And yeah, we'll make sure we check out that one as well with Ryan Suzuki.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, those guys are fun, and you know they're very engaging, and of course they're all excited because this is the best time of the year for them. So, boy, just to have Skylar and now to have Ryan on is a hoop.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So, yeah.
Well, that being said, I think we'll wrap this one up, Tom. Thank you so much again for coming on, and yeah. We'll probably be reaching out to you again this summer to have another conversation about Chicago and maybe a preview of what their season's going to look like next year.
Yeah.
Oh, guys, anytime you want me on the show and spend some time talking hockey with you, of course, it's my pleasure and my privilege. And again, I think it's great what you guys do. I just I watch everything you do, and I try to catch as much as I can, and you're doing a fantastic job. So thanks for doing that, and
You as well.
continued success with it, guys.
Yeah, right back at you. All right, you have a good rest of your day, Tom. Thank you so much.
Thanks again, guys. You take care.
Take care. And thank you very much again, Tom Ray, for coming on and talking about the Grand Rapids Griffins and Chicago Wolves playoff matchup. And check out his material. Go check out StormTRacker and prepare yourselves for.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. And we are looking forward to this matchup versus the Wolves. We'll quick dive into the schedule. So Thursday, May 14th at Van Andel Arena, we'll start off the series. Saturday, May 16th for the second game at Van Andel Arena. Thursday, May 19th at Allstate Arena. This will be 8 p.m. for us over here in Grand Rapids. So that will be the first game in Chicago. And game 4, Thursday, May 21st at Allstate Arena as well, 8 p.m. And then if needed, Saturday, May 23rd at Van Andel Arena. Final home advantage if we need it.
Yeah, it's back to more of like a classic playoff schedule. I mean, it's still not 7 games. I like the format where you start at home with 2 games, you go back for 2 games, and then if you do 2.
Yep, that would
Come back.
mimic the 7-game schedule as close as they could. So
come on out and support the Grand Rapids Griffins and come to the Van Andel on Thursday, May 14th or Saturday, May 16th. $2 beer, $2 dogs throughout the playoffs. It's a fun time. If you're not huge into hockey, just come on out and enjoy it. It's nothing like playoff hockey. So come down and support the Griffins. And until next time, go Griffins.
go Griffins.
Thank you for listening to the Griffins Pipeline podcast. If you enjoyed the show, give us a 5-star review. We are part of the Hockey Podcast Network. We are not partnered with the Grand Rapids Griffins, Detroit Red Wings, or Toledo Walleye. We are not experts. We are just die-hard fans looking to make a community with others alike. Let's go Griffins Nation. Join the fun, like and follow us on Facebook and X, or call into the show and have your opinion heard 1-616-319-1175. Thank you. Grand Rapids Griffins, Toledo Walleye, and Detroit Red Wings. Players, coaches, websites, and social media. Thank you AHL.com, NHL.com, ETL.com, EliteProspects.com, and anyone else putting out information on the teams. Until next time, go Griffins. Go Red Wings, go Walleye.